All right, fellas, take a look on the screen. Here on the screen, we have a picture of a gentleman named Tyrone Garner, who was age 31 at the time of this incident. I want to go ahead and show you guys another picture here. The next picture, we have a photo of the individual he was caught having activities with. This dude's name is John Getter Lawrence Jr., who was age 55 at the time of the incident. So just to recap this incident, we need to talk about the arrest of Lawrence and Garner. So, on September 17, 1998, John Geddes Lawrence Jr., a gay 55-year-old medical technologist, was hosting two gay acquaintances, Tyrone Garner, age 31 at the time, like I said, and Robert Eubanks, age 40, at his apartment in northeast Harris County, Texas, which is Houston, Texas. Lawrence and Eubanks had been friends for more than 20 years. Garner and Eubanks had had an intermittent romantic relationship since the 1990s. Lacking transportation home, the couple were preparing to spend the night. However, Eubanks, who had been drinking heavily, left to purchase a soda from a nearby vending machine. Apparently outraged that Lawrence had been flirting with Garner, he called the police, and listen to this, and reported, quote, a black male was going crazy with a strap at Lawrence's apartment. I just want to pause right there. And this is why I come on my platform and I, caution you guys against the whole throuple thing, the whole, linking up with other groups of people. The first thing that comes to my mind when I think about the situation in this case is, why would a good looking, decent looking 31-year-old black man want to be, having relations with a 55-year-old older white man and a 40-year-old older white man? I can understand the 40-year-old, but the 55-year-old is just a little bit too much. And, when it comes to the whole throuple thing, I tell you guys repeatedly, somebody's going to be jealous and somebody's going to be in their feelings. So what did the dude do? What did the white dude do? The first thing he did was turn to racist, making racist remarks against the gay black man, saying that he had a strap at Lawrence's apartment. So, as much as we want to have this kumbaya with other gay people in our community, it all goes back to racism. At the end of the day, it all goes back to racism. So, if you are a younger gay black man out here looking to date, a lot of you guys will be approached by older white men for dating opportunities and whatnot. And I want to caution you against that. And the reason why is I want you to ask yourself this. Would this individual be willing to date me or show me any sort of interest if we were the same age? More than likely, no. More than likely, no. See, what happens to us is, as gay black men, we are often approached by older, non-black people, right? That don't have any more opportunities left. They don't have any more dating opportunities left. Whose younger counterparts don't want to be with them, don't want to have relationships with them. So they try to go to our community and look for people to date and look for people to have fun with and whatnot, but we end up being used by these dudes. And this is just another case, another example of a gay black man being used and being scapegoated by a gay white man. So be careful out here. Be careful when you're entertaining these white men because, like I said, I've seen too many younger gay black men being done dirty by these older white men, and it's not a good situation. When I was younger, I had my own experiences with it. I learned very early on the dude didn't even want me, showing up publicly at his home, and from that point on, I was too young to know any better. But moving forward, I just told myself I would never have dealings with any man that had a problem with me showing up at their house. Period. So yeah, it's like, think twice before you're hooking up or having relations with older white men, because more times, 9 times out of 10, they don't really like you. They just want to use you. They don't have any other opportunities. They just want to use you for what you can, for what your body, your sexual prowess and whatnot. They just want to use you. Let's continue on with the story. So after he made the racist phone call, 4 Harris County Sheriff's deputies responded within minutes, and Eubanks pointed them to the apartment. They entered the unlocked apartment toward 11 p.m. with their weapons drawn. In accordance with police procedures, the first to arrive, Joseph Quinn, took the lead both in approaching the scene and later in determining what charges to bring. He later reported seeing Lawrence and Garner having relations in the bedroom. A second officer reported seeing them engaged in other relations, and 2 others did not report seeing the pair having any sort of relations at all. Lawrence repeatedly challenged the police for entering his home. Quinn had discretionary authority to charge them for a variety of offenses and to determine whether to arrest them. When the police officer Quinn considered charging them with having relations in violations of state law, because remember back in this time, 2001, 2003, I believe, it was against the law for men to be having relations with other men. It was against the state law in Texas. So let's go on. It said when Quinn considered charging them with having relations in violation of state law, he had to get an assistant district attorney to check the statutes to be certain they covered this sort of activity inside a residence, a private residence. He was told that Texas's I cannot say this word because I'm going to get demonetized, statute, the homosexual conduct law, made it a Class C misdemeanor if someone engages in relations with another individual of the same gender or sex. The statute, Chapter 21, Section 21.06 of the Texas Penal Code, had been adopted in 1973 when the state revised its criminal code to end its prescription on heterosexual end its proscription on heterosexual non-normal relations. I'm sorry, you guys. I had to be creative. On YouTube. Quinn decided to arrest Lawrence and Garner and charge them with having relations that were not incongruent with the law. In the separate arrest reports he filed for each, he wrote that he had seen the arrestee, quote, engaged in relations, namely, what men do with each other. Lawrence and Garner were held in jail overnight. At a hearing the next day, they pleaded not guilty to a charge of this sort of conduct. They were released toward midnight. Blanks pleaded no contest to charges of filing a false police report. He was sentenced to 30 days in jail but was released early. Let's get on with the prosecution and appeals. So this was appealed by Lambda Legal. Litigating the case convinced Lauren and Garner not to contest the charges and to plead no contest instead. To appeal, Lawrence and Garner needed to have their cases tried in Harris County Criminal Court. Their attorneys asked the court to dismiss the charges against them on the 14th Amendment equal protection grounds, claiming that the law was unconstitutional since it prohibited this type of relations between, two men, but not between heterosexual couples. They also asserted a right to privacy and that the Supreme Court's decision in Bowers versus Hardwick that found no privacy protection for consensual relations between two men was wrongly decided. On December 22nd, Judge Sherman Ross denied the defense motions to dismiss. The defendants again pleaded no contest. Ross fined them $200 each, the amount agreed upon in advance by both sides. I want to read on here. They took this to the Supreme Court. Let's read what the Supreme Court had to say. In a petition for Centauri filed in the U.S. Supreme Court on July 16, 2002, Lambda Legal attorneys asked the court to consider whether the petitioner's criminal convictions under the Texas conduct law, which criminalizes intimacy between two men but not identical behavior between opposite couples, violate the 14th Amendment guarantee of equal protections of laws. Whether the petitioner's criminal convictions for adult consensual relations in their home violate their vital interests in liberty and privacy protected by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment. And thirdly, whether Bowers versus Hardwick should be overruled. On December 2nd, 2002 to be exact, the court agreed to hear the case. Lambda Legal coordinated the submission of 16 briefs to complement their own brief. Submitting organizations including the American Bar Association, the American Psychological Society, and the American Public Health Association. I want to go on and read their decision. So on June 26, 2003, the Supreme Court issued a 6-3 decision in favor of Lawrence that struck down Texas's statute. 5 justices held it violated the Due Process Clause, while a 6th, Sandra Day O'Connor, held it violated Equal Protection Clause. I wanted to bring this up because people don't understand that this decision, which made it possible for us as two men to have relationships with other men, did not take place not too long ago. This was in 2002, 2003, like I said before. This can easily be overturned. And it's just ironic how racism was the catalyst to spark this decision to give us these rights as queer men. Like, racism was the catalyst, the racist call. And I just want to once again warn you all about who you're deciding to mess around with, who you're deciding to have relations with, because you can easily find yourself in some situations thinking these people are down for you, thinking these people are on your side because they're both gay and whatnot. But that's not always the case in the gay community, in the queer community. You know, like I said before, if you're a younger black man, be careful dealing with older men. I don't care if the older man is white, black, whatever. Just be careful, because a lot of these older people, they feel a way about you receiving a sort of a higher amount of attention than they are receiving, in terms of, they may want another's attention. You're just getting more play because you're younger, and the older dude may be into black dudes. I don't know, but a lot of people feel a way about you being black, period. So just be careful out here. And once again, it's ironic that racism was the catalyst that gave us the right to be able to live the way we live today, freely and openly as gay people. So as we move forward and look to the future, I truly believe that Texas is going to challenge this law again. I can see the Supreme Court bringing this back up, and in the future, because they did go ahead and decide about Roe versus Wade. This is the same Supreme Court that made a decision about Roe versus Wade, making it legal. Now it's been deemed illegal. Lawrence versus Texas, they could soon make that illegal. So our relationships could be deemed illegal in several states, especially the South. Which is why I tell you guys, look to getting out of the South, look to getting out of Texas, Georgia, Florida, wherever you are in the South. Look to moving up north. Look to moving where you are wanted and valued as a human being, as a taxpayer, because there's no way in the world that we as queer people should be paying taxes and having discriminatory laws placed upon us by our own governments. Like, it's not fair. It's not right. I don't agree with it. This case is full of irony. And a man like this, a 33-year-old, like, I just wonder, why would you want to hook up with a dude, a 51-year-old that looked like that? Were substances involved? What was involved with that? Because the 40-year-old didn't like it. He didn't like it. He didn't like what he saw. He felt jealous about what he saw because the black dude was getting more attention. He hated it. So what did he do? He called the police and made up a racist lie. Throughout my childhood, I did grow up with a lot of white people. I'm thankful that my mom allowed me the opportunity to see how other people live, because we were raised in poverty. So I got to see a different way of living, and that helped me value education. That helped me to aim and achieve for higher things. But unfortunately, that resulted in me kind of putting white people on a pedestal, because that's all I saw. Like, I was brainwashed to believe that's who I need to be. I'm less than because they look a certain way. I can never be that way. When you hang out with a group of white people, you are, as a black person, you are made to feel like not, and I don't think they do it intentionally, but you are made to feel like you are not attractive. They get to have the social life. They get to have the people crushing on them, going on dates, the hookups and whatnot. They do that, but you're off to the sidelines. You're off to the sidelines, not getting a lot of play, a lot of attention, and feeling like you're worthless and you're ugly. So I just learned throughout my childhood, my early 20s, that I was done dating white dudes. No, this is nothing against white people, but I cannot deal with a level of racism, their level of racism, their level of bigotry, ignorance, and hatred towards black people. I can't deal with it. A lot of people will look at my husband and they'll be like, oh, even though he's Mexican, they'll be like, oh, he's white, but he's not. The dude has a hard time understanding songs in English. Like, I have to, he has to really slow down and look up lyrics and whatnot, because he's Mexican. He's first generation Mexican. His family, all they speak is Spanish. Like, he may look a certain way, but the minute he talks, the minute you get to know him, you're like, oh yeah, he ain't one of them. For sure, he ain't one of them. He's had horrible experiences with racism, even more than I have. Horrible experiences with racism in California. Because in California, like he tells me, most of the white people in Orange County, where he was born, they have a lot of money, and they make it clear that they don't want to have nothing to do with Mexicans. Like, Mexicans are their housekeepers, their cleaners and whatnot. And I'm not saying it's right, but that's the reality of the world that we live in. So with that being said, when my husband, got on his knee and asked me to marry him in his parents' home in Mexico, I said yes. Why? One of the reasons why was because he was super kind, but also because He understands what it's like to be a minority. He understands what it's like to be looked down upon for something you can't control, to be looked down upon because of your culture, the color of your skin, how you talk, whatever it is. He understands what it's like to be looked down upon by white people. And that was a huge thing for me because I told myself when it's time for me to have a serious relationship, I'm not going to choose anyone who does not have experience dealing with racism, who does not deal with racism on a day-to-day basis. I'm not dealing with nobody like that. So I just want to make that clear. A lot of people get in my comments like, "Oh, your husband, your husband, your husband." Bro, don't worry about my husband. Don't worry about him. Trust me. Tried and true Mexican, tried and true minority, tried and true, been through the fire in terms of racism, understands it, doesn't ask me questions about my experiences of racism. What I mean by that is he doesn't question when I bring up my experiences of racism because he understands it. He gets it. And he's supportive. He will watch documentaries with me about the history of Black people and our contributions to the American society and how the only reason why all these immigrants and all these groups of color, how can I put it, all these people of color are able to come to the States and live the way they live today is because of the plight of Black people. He understands that and goes out of his way to make sure he understands that and he values that. I just want to make that clear. I want to make one more observation before I call it a day. When you Google this case, it is noted or called Lawrence versus Texas. However, the full name is John Geddes Lawrence and Tyrone Garner versus Texas. So not only did Garner get the police called on him, and being slandered as a Black man holding a strap, but he's not anywhere mentioned in the name of this case unless you do some digging. So we got the short end of the stick all the way around as gay Black men. Sad. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below. But Wolf is back. Wolf Pack. Take care and peace. I don't wanna say a nigga bluff, nigga kill, nigga up. Nigga, what's up? Nigga, what's good? You and they can't, I still chop in the hood. Cell phone bang all night, so I'ma get to it all night. Then on the weekends, so they try to catch flights. With another bitch, nigga, really I might. I never spare, nigga, dare, nigga, flap a nigga, rob a nigga, chop a nigga, bump a nigga, tell a nigga, real a nigga, fuck, real a nigga, spill a nigga, I'ma beat a nigga, never feed a nigga, never see a nigga, never need a nigga, cut a nigga, bust a nigga, can't fuss nigga, what's up?